There's a hole in their life shaped exactly like you and nothing fits into it. They've tried. Tried filling it with other people, with work, with distractions, with anything that might make the void less obvious, less painful, less constant. But everything they try to put in your place just highlights the emptiness more clearly. Other people aren't you. Work doesn't fill emotional voids. Distractions are temporary while the void is permanent. The void remains. Gut-wrenching, undeniable. Growing wider the longer you're gone. Your absence isn't just missing you, it's experiencing the specific space you occupied in their life, as empty space that's screaming its emptiness at them constantly. You were integrated into their daily existence in ways they didn't recognize while you were there. You were part of their routine, their thinking, their emotional baseline, their sense of normalcy. And now all of that has U-shaped holes in it. Holes they keep falling into. Holes that hurt every time they encounter them. Holes that are teaching them through pain what your presence was providing through comfort they took completely for granted. The void is gut-wrenching because it's visceral, not just mental or emotional, physical. They feel it in their stomach, that hollow aching sensation that won't go away, that sense of something missing that's so intense it's almost nausea. The physical sensation of the void is their body responding to loss of attachment figure, to absence of person who became necessary to their sense of security and well-being. Their body knows you're gone even when their mind is trying to minimize it, trying to defend against it, trying to pretend the void isn't as devastating as it actually is. The void hurts them more than they hurt while you were there dealing with their patterns. While you were there, they were uncomfortable with the intimacy, with your needs, with the vulnerability the relationship required. But uncomfortable isn't gut-wrenching. Uncomfortable is manageable. The void is unmanageable. The void is pain that can't be defended against because it's not coming from outside. It's internal. It's the absence itself creating the pain. And you can't create distance from absence. You can't withdraw from void. You just have to feel it. And feeling it is destroying them in ways being with you never destroyed them, even when being with you was hard. The specific ways the void is manifesting in their daily life. They wake up and the void is first thing they notice. That sense of something wrong, something missing, something fundamentally off about their life that takes a moment to identify as your absence. The morning void is setting emotional tone for entire day, starting each day in deficit, starting from position of something crucial being gone. The waking into void is Groundhog Day experience they can't escape from. Every single morning. The same gut-wrenching recognition. You're not there. The void is there, and the day has to be lived from inside the void. The void is present in every routine you are part of. Making coffee and you're not there. The coffee tastes different, not because coffee changed, but because drinking it alone is different from drinking it while thinking about you or sharing it with you, or having you there as presence that made morning coffee feel like connection instead of just caffeine. Every routine activity has void where you used to be. Driving to work, eating lunch, evening hours, every single thing they do regularly is a reminder of what's not there anymore. The constant encountering of void throughout the day is death by 1,000 cuts. Each small void is small pain, but small pains repeated constantly become unbearable. They're experiencing the void in their physical space. Your absence from their environment is palpable. The space looks wrong, feels wrong. The wrongness is void in physical form. They keep looking at the spaces where you used to be, where your things were, where you existed when you were with them. Empty space where you should be is visible, void. Can't avoid it. Can't not see it. Every time they're in their own space, they're confronted with the void. The confrontation is constant, and constant confrontation with void is living inside the wound instead of healing from it. The void is also present in their mind as intrusive thoughts, thinking about you constantly, not because they want to, but because their mind keeps going to the void, keeps trying to fill it, keeps searching for you in the absence. The intrusive thinking is their brain trying to solve problem of the void, trying to figure out how to make it stop hurting, trying to restore what's missing. But thinking about the void doesn't fill it, just makes them more aware of it, more conscious of how empty it is, more focused on the absence instead of on what's actually present. The intrusive thoughts are keeping them trapped in the void instead of letting them move forward past it. Why the void feels worse than the relationship felt difficult. The relationship required vulnerability they didn't want to give, required emotional availability they didn't have, required consistency that felt like obligation. The difficulty was real, but difficulty is specific. You can identify it, can point to what's hard, can potentially do something about it. The void is diffuse, can't be pinpointed to a specific problem to solve, can't be addressed through any action they can take. The diffuse pain is worse than specific pain because specific pain suggests solution. Diffuse pain is just suffering without clear path to making it stop. The relationship also had moments of comfort mixed with the difficulty. Moments when they felt close to you, moments when your presence felt good, moments when connection felt worth the discomfort intimacy created. Those moments of comfort punctuated the difficulty, making the difficulty bearable. But the void has no comfort moments. The void is just void, constant, unrelieved. No moments where the absence feels good or where the void provides anything positive. Just endless, empty aching that never lets up. Difficulty with comfort mixed in is tolerable. Pure void without any relief is torture. The void is also worse because it's teaching them what they lost. While the relationship was difficult, they could focus on the difficulty and use it to justify their defended state. See, intimacy is too hard, vulnerability is too uncomfortable, relationships require too much. But the void is showing them what they're living without now, without your understanding, without your patience, without your presence that was making their life better even when they couldn't appreciate it. The void is education in what they had by showing them what they don't have. And learning what you had by losing it is more painful than experiencing difficulty while you still have it. The moments when the void becomes absolutely unbearable. The void becomes unbearable when they have good news and their first impulse is to tell you but they can't. Something good happens, something they're excited about. And their automatic response is you, want to share it with you, want to hear what you'd say about it, want you to be happy for them. But you're not accessible. The void is where you used to be. The good news sits there unshared or gets shared with people who don't care the way you cared. And good news that can't be shared with the person you want to share it with becomes not as good news. The void is stealing their joy, stealing their ability to fully experience positive things because positive things feel incomplete without you there to share them. The void is unbearable during difficult moments when they need support and you're not there. Crisis hits. Something goes wrong, something scares them or hurts them or overwhelms them. And they need someone, they need you. You were the person they turned to even if they couldn't fully admit they were turning to you, even if they had to maintain some defended distance while leaning on you. But now there's void where your support used to be. They're facing hard things alone in ways they didn't face hard things alone when you were there. The discovering that hard things are harder without you is discovering the depth of the void. The void isn't just empty space. Its absence of support structure. They're collapsing under weight of things you used to help them carry. The void becomes unbearable late at night when they can't sleep and there's nothing to distract from the emptiness. Lying in darkness with the void, just them and the aching absence of you. No defenses strong enough to work at 3 a.m. No rationalizations believable enough to make the void feel less empty. Just raw experience of you not being there when you used to be there. The night void is purest form of the void, because there's nothing else competing for attention. Just void and them, and the gut-wrenching pain of absence that won't let them sleep. The void is unbearable when they see you or hear about you being happy without them. The information that you're fine, that you're thriving, that you filled whatever void your absence from you created if you even experienced void at all, is information that makes their void worse. Their void is permanent and growing. Your void, if you had one, is filled, or healing, or maybe never existed. The asymmetry is crushing. They're gutted by your absence. You're fine with their absence. The comparison makes the void deeper because it means the void is one-sided. They need you and you don't need them. The one-sided need is void that can't be filled because the only thing that could fill it is you, and you're unavailable not just physically but psychologically. You don't want to fill their void. An unfillable void is void that just keeps hurting. How they're trying to fill the void and why it's making things worse. They're trying to fill the void with new people quickly. Dating, pursuing casual connections, looking for someone, anyone, who might plug the hole. But new people aren't shaped like you. Don't fit the void. Trying to fit someone who isn't you into void shaped exactly like you is highlighting the void more clearly. Every person who isn't you is evidence of what's missing. Evidence that you're irreplaceable. Evidence that the void is your specific shape and nothing else will fit it. The failed attempts at filling void with people who aren't you is making the void more obvious, more painful, more clearly yours, in ways that make it hurt worse. They're trying to fill the void with work and achievement and staying busy. If they just don't stop moving, don't stop doing, don't stop achieving, Maybe they won't notice the void. But the void doesn't care how busy they are. The void is there when they stop. And they have to stop eventually. Have to sleep, have to rest, have to have moments of quiet. And in every moment of quiet, there's the void, waiting, unchanged by how much they achieved while trying to outrun it. The busyness is exhausting them without filling anything. They're depleted and void is still there. Tired and empty is worse than just empty. Some are trying to fill the void by maintaining connection to you through indirect means, following your life through mutual friends, keeping tabs on what you're doing, maintaining awareness of your existence, even though they don't have direct access. The indirect connection is them trying to make you less absent by staying informed about you. But information about you isn't you. Knowing what you're doing isn't having you in their life. The indirect connection is giving them just enough sense of you to keep the void raw, to keep it from healing, to keep them oriented toward absence instead of accepting absence and moving forward. They're keeping the void fresh by keeping you present through information while absent in reality. They're also trying to minimize the void through telling themselves it's not that bad, they're fine, they'll get over it, it wasn't meant to be. The minimizing is defense mechanism trying to make the void smaller through thinking differently about it. But you can't think away visceral pain, can't rationalize gut-wrenching emptiness into something manageable. The void exists independent of how they think about it. The minimizing is just them lying to themselves. And lying to yourself about pain doesn't eliminate pain. Just makes you alone with the pain, because you can't seek support for pain you're pretending isn't there. What the void is forcing them to face about themselves. The void is forcing them to face that they need people more than their defended identity allowed them to admit. Their entire self-concept, built on not needing anyone, on being fine alone, on being self-sufficient. But the void is undeniable evidence of need. You can't have gut-wrenching void from losing someone you didn't need. The void is proportional to the need. Deep void means deep need. They needed you, depended on you, were relying on you in ways they couldn't acknowledge while you were there. The void is teaching them about their own dependency through absence of what they were dependent on. And learning you're dependent through losing what you depended on is a devastating lesson about yourself. The void is also forcing them to face their own capacity for attachment. They performed someone who doesn't attach, who doesn't get close, who keeps everyone at distance. But you got close. You became attached to. The attachment happened despite their defense against it. And now the attachment is visible through the void the absence of attached person creates. Can't have this kind of void without having had attachment. The void is proof of attachment. And attachment means they're not who they've claimed to be. They're not invulnerable to connection. They're someone who attaches and then destroys what they're attached to through their inability to sustain attachment. The recognition of their own attachment capacity, mixed with their own relational incapacity, is identity crisis the void is creating. The void is forcing them to confront their responsibility for creating it. They can't blame you for the void. You didn't create your absence maliciously. You left because staying was hurting you. You left because they couldn't meet you. You left because the relationship wasn't working and they weren't fixing what wasn't working. The void exists because their patterns pushed you away. Their defended state created the conditions for you leaving. Their inability to be vulnerable, to be consistent, to show up cost them you. The void is consequence of their choices. And facing that the gut-wrenching pain they're experiencing is self-inflicted, is result of their own patterns, is something they created through their defended incapacity is facing level of responsibility most avoidants can't face. So they try to blame you. Try to make your leaving the problem instead of their patterns the problem. But deep down, in the void, they know. They created this. Why the void won't fill itself with time alone. Time doesn't heal void that isn't being processed. Time just passes, while void remains if the void isn't being actively worked on through grief, through therapy, through examining patterns, through developing capacity. They're experiencing time passing. The void isn't getting smaller. If anything, it's getting bigger as more time passes and you're more gone and the absence is more permanent. Time without work is just duration. Duration of suffering without transformation of suffering. The void needs more than time. Needs intentional grieving. Needs therapeutic intervention. Needs them doing something different instead of just waiting for time to make it hurt less. The void also won't fill because they're preventing it from filling through keeping it fresh. Can't heal wound, you keep reopening. Can't fill void, you keep excavating. And they're keeping the void open through monitoring your life, through thinking about you constantly, through comparing everyone to you, through refusing to accept the absence as permanent. The refusal to accept is the refusal to grieve, and refusal to grieve is refusal to heal. The void will stay void as long as they're organized around hoping it will fill with you, instead of accepting it won't fill with you and needs to fill with something else, or needs to be integrated as permanent scar instead of fresh wound. Time also won't fill the void because the void represents more than just missing you. The void represents everything you are providing that they didn't acknowledge. Support, understanding, patience, care, love. All of it gone. The void is absence of all of that. And all of that can't be replaced by time. Can only be replaced by someone else providing it, or by them developing capacity to provide it for themselves. Neither of which is happening. They're not finding someone else who provides what you provided, and they're not developing capacity to care for themselves in ways you were caring for them. So the void persists. Time passing doesn't change that nothing is filling it. How the void is changing their psychology in permanent ways. The void is creating permanent anxiety about loss. They lost you. The void is undeniable evidence of the loss. The loss hurt more than they thought loss could hurt. The experience is teaching them at deep level that attachment leads to loss, leads to unbearable pain. The learning is making them terrified of future attachment. If they attach to someone new, they could experience this void again, could lose someone again, could hurt like this again. The terror of future void is making them defend harder against future attachment. The void is making them more avoidant, not less, teaching them to never let anyone close enough to create this kind of void when they inevitably leave. The void is also creating permanent comparison point. No one will create void like you created, because no one will matter like you mattered, because they're not allowing anyone to matter like you mattered specifically to prevent void like this from happening again. Your permanent standard. The relationship whose absence hurts most is relationship that mattered most. You'll be the person they measure everyone against for the rest of their life. And everyone will fall short of you, fall short of what you provided, fall short of mattering enough to create this kind of void. The comparison is ensuring future loneliness. They're protecting themselves from future void by preventing future depth. But preventing future depth is choosing permanent shallow loneliness over risk of deep connection that might create deep void. The void is changing their self-concept permanently. They thought they were fine alone. The void is proving they're not fine alone. They thought they didn't need people. The void is proving they need people desperately. They thought their defended state was protecting them. The void is proving their defended state created the exact pain it was supposed to prevent. Every belief about themselves is being challenged by the void. And challenge to core beliefs is challenge to identity. They don't know who they are if they're not the person they thought they were. The identity crisis is making them either question everything and potentially pursue growth, or defend harder against the questioning and become more rigid in their defended state. Most choose more rigid. The void makes them worse, not better. Why your absence creating this void doesn't create obligation for you. They're experiencing gut-wrenching void. The void is real, the pain is intense, and none of it means you should come back. Their pain from your absence doesn't create responsibility for you to make yourself present. The void is consequence of their patterns, consequence they earned, consequence that's teaching them what their patterns cost. The teaching is necessary. You removing yourself as consequence by returning would be preventing them from learning what they need to learn, would be sacrificing yourself to relieve pain that's theirs to sit with. Your presence also wouldn't fill the void in a healthy way, would just recreate the dynamic that didn't work. They'd feel temporary relief from the void. Then the patterns would return. The defended state would reassert itself. The relationship would become dysfunctional again. Eventually you'd leave again, and the void would return worse than before, because now it would include the pain of trying again and failing again. The void can't be filled by you unless they've done the work to become someone who can sustain you, and they haven't done the work. The void is just void. Your presence would be temporary band-aid on permanent wound. You also have your own well-being to protect. Making yourself present to fill their void would be putting their emotional state above your own protection, would be choosing their comfort over your safety, would be returning to someone who hurt you because they're hurting from consequences of hurting you. That's backwards. That's you absorbing their pain instead of them experiencing their pain. Your job isn't to manage their void. Your job is to maintain boundaries that protect you from patterns that created the void. The boundaries are working. They're feeling consequences. The consequences hurt. That's how consequences work. That's how learning happens, if learning is going to happen. The truth about whether the void will eventually drive them to change: for a small percentage, the void will become unbearable enough to drive real change. The pain will become so intense, they'll pursue therapy. They'll start examining their patterns. They'll do the uncomfortable work of processing their attachment wounds, developing capacity they don't have, becoming someone different. The void will be the crisis that creates transformation. Years from now, they'll look back on the void as worst thing that happened that became best thing because it forced them to finally address their shit. They'll be grateful for the void even though experiencing it was agony. But for most, the void won't drive change. Will just drive deeper defense. The pain will be so intense they'll defend against ever feeling it again by never letting anyone close enough to create this kind of void. They'll use the void as evidence that relationships are too dangerous, vulnerability is too costly, attachment leads to unbearable pain. The void will make them more defended, more isolated, more committed to their patterns, because the patterns feel safer than the alternative, which is risking this void again. They'll carry the void permanently while using it as justification for never trying again. Some will sit in the void indefinitely, without changing and without defending harder, just existing with the void as permanent state, suffering from it, letting it define their emotional baseline, becoming someone whose default state is emptiness, is void, is sense of something crucial missing. They'll function, they'll go through motions, but they'll be hollow. The void will be what's inside them instead of what they're experiencing temporarily. The void becomes them. And void as identity is saddest outcome. Living the rest of their life as walking absence of what they lost, and never replacing it with anything else. The final truth about them experiencing gut-wrenching void from your absence. Your absence hurts them. Left gut-wrenching void. The void is real and devastating and teaching them through pain what words could never teach. That you mattered. That their patterns cost them something valuable. That defended state doesn't protect from pain, just creates different pain. The void is consequence working exactly as it should, creating suffering that might drive change, or might just be suffering that teaches nothing but proves that actions have consequences that can't be defended against. But the void is theirs, their experience, their pain, their consequence. Not your responsibility to fill, not your burden to relieve, not your problem to solve. You've already carried enough, carried the relationship while they stayed defended, carried the hope while they couldn't hope, carried the trying while they couldn't try. You're done carrying. The void is what they carry now. And carrying the void is how they learn what you were carrying while you were there, trying to make relationship work with someone who couldn't meet you. They have gut-wrenching void. You have gut-wrenching freedom. Both are results of the same ending. Both are what each of you earned through the choices each made. Their void is consequence of patterns that pushed you away. Your freedom is reward for choosing yourself over someone who couldn't choose you, despite the void your absence is creating, proving they needed you desperately. The void is theirs. The freedom is yours. And the separation between void and freedom is the boundary that protects you from falling back into void shaped like them that you experienced while trying to have relationship with someone who was absent, while present, who was void while there, who created emptiness in you through their defended incapacity that you've now filled through your own healing, while they experienced the void that's natural consequence of losing someone who mattered while being unable to show they mattered until after they're gone. How the void is manifesting in ways they're hiding from everyone. They're crying in private in ways they've never cried before. Not the defended tears they might have allowed themselves occasionally while you were there. Full breakdown crying. Sobbing alone in their car, in the shower where no one can hear, late at night when everyone else is asleep. The crying is their body trying to release the void through physical expression, trying to purge the pain through tears. But the crying doesn't empty the void, just temporarily relieves the pressure the void creates before the pressure builds again. They're hiding the crying because crying this hard contradicts their identity as someone who's unbothered, who's fine, who doesn't need anyone. The hidden crying is evidence of how deep the void goes, how much pain they're actually in beneath the defended exterior they're maintaining for the world. They're also experiencing panic attacks they're not naming as panic attacks, sudden overwhelming anxiety that comes from nowhere, heart racing, can't breathe, feel like they're dying. The panic attacks are the void creating physiological crisis. Their nervous system is in overdrive from the loss, from the absence, from the attachment figure being gone. The panic is their body saying, "This is emergency, we lost something critical, we need to restore it now." but they can't restore it. You're gone. So the panic just happens, passes, happens again. They're not telling anyone about the panic because admitting panic would be admitting how much your absence is affecting them. So they suffer through it alone, which makes the panic worse, which makes the void deeper. Some of them are engaging in self-destructive behaviors they're hiding, drinking too much, using substances to numb the void, engaging in risky behaviors that are unconscious attempts to fill the emptiness with something, anything, even if the something is dangerous. The self-destruction is them trying to escape the void through creating different sensations, different problems, different focus. But you can't escape internal void through external behaviors. The void remains. They're just adding destruction to void, compounding their problems, creating more pain to distract from the original pain. The hidden self-destruction is evidence they're not coping, not healing, not processing, just suffering and trying to make the suffering more manageable through making it different, even if different means worse. They're also having intrusive thoughts about you that are disturbing in their intensity, not just thinking about you. Obsessive loops they can't break, fantasies about you coming back. Scenarios where they run into you and everything works out, replaying every conversation, every moment, every interaction, trying to understand where it went wrong. The intrusive thoughts are consuming hours of their day, making it hard to focus on anything else, making them feel crazy because they can't control their own mind. The loss of control over their thoughts is loss of control over their internal experience. The void has taken over their mental space. They're living inside it instead of living in their actual life. The specific people in their life who are noticing the void even when they're trying to hide it. Close friends are noticing they're different, not themselves, more withdrawn or more irritable or more distracted. The friends are commenting on it, asking if everything's okay. They're saying they're fine, but the fine is unconvincing. Friends can see the void even when it's not being discussed, can see it in their energy, their presence, the way they're going through motions, instead of actually engaging. Some friends are connecting it to your absence, saying things like, "You seem different since the breakup." They're denying it matters, saying they're over it. But the denial is obvious lie, and the friends know it. The friends seeing the void is making them feel more exposed, more vulnerable, more embarrassed about how much your absence is affecting them. Family is noticing if they have contact with family, parents seeing their child is suffering, siblings seeing something is wrong, family asking questions they're deflecting. The family concern is activating shame. They should be strong enough to handle this, should be over it by now, should be fine. But they're not fine, and family can see they're not fine. Some family members are mentioning you, asking about you, wondering if you two will work things out. Each mention of you is reopening the void, making it fresh, making the absence more acute. They're trying to change the subject, but the trying is obvious. The family knows. And family knowing means the void isn't private anymore, isn't contained, is visible to people who've known them their whole life, and can see this is different. This is affecting them in ways other breakups didn't. This matters in ways they're not admitting. Co-workers are noticing the performance decline. They're making more mistakes, missing deadlines, not focused, not delivering at the level they usually deliver. The professional impact of the void is creating feedback they can't ignore. Boss is concerned, colleagues are picking up slack. The noticing at work is creating additional stress that's making the void worse. They're embarrassed about the professional impact, trying harder to compensate. But trying harder while hollow inside is exhausting. They're running on empty while trying to perform full. The performance is slipping. And slipping performance is evidence to them that the void is affecting everything, is bleeding into every area of life, isn't containable to just their personal emotional experience. Even casual acquaintances are sensing something is off. The person they see at the gym, the barista who makes their coffee, random people in their periphery who don't know what's wrong but can feel that something is different. The void is changing their energy in ways that are visible even to people who barely know them. They seem sadder, seem heavier, seem like they're carrying something. The universal noticing is teaching them they can't hide the void as well as they think they're hiding it. The void is too big to hide, too present to mask, too heavy to carry invisibly. Everyone can see it even when they're trying to perform normal. What the void is teaching them about what you are actually providing, the void is teaching them you are providing emotional safety they didn't acknowledge. While you were there, they felt safe in ways they took for granted. Safe to be themselves. Safe to be imperfect. Your acceptance created safety they operated from without recognizing they were operating from it. Now that you're gone, the safety is gone. They don't feel safe anymore, feel exposed. Feel like they have to maintain defense with everyone because no one else provides the acceptance you provided. The void of safety is teaching them you were home. And home lost creates homelessness. That's more than physical, it's emotional homelessness. Nowhere feels safe anymore because safe was wherever you were. The void is teaching them you were providing understanding they can't find elsewhere. You understood them in ways others don't understand them. Understood their silence. Understood their patterns. Understood their defended state without taking it personally. The understanding let them be themselves without having to explain themselves. Now they have to explain everything. Have to justify their need for space. Have to defend their patterns. Have to make themselves comprehensible to people who don't intuitively get them the way you got them. The exhaustion of being with people who don't understand versus the ease of being with you is teaching them what your understanding was worth. The void of understanding is making every interaction harder, every relationship more exhausting. The void is teaching them you were their person in ways they couldn't admit while having you. You were the first person they thought of, first person they wanted to share things with, first person they turned to even if they couldn't admit they were turning to you. You were primary attachment figure, and primary attachment figure lost creates void that can't be filled by secondary people. Other people exist in their life, but other people aren't primary. The void is teaching them about hierarchy of importance they weren't conscious of. You were most important, and most important lost creates biggest void. The void is teaching them you were providing consistent presence that created stability in their life. Your reliability, your consistency, your being, there even when they were creating distance, created baseline stability they didn't recognize. Their life had structure around you, around knowing you'd be there, around counting on you even while telling themselves they didn't count on anyone. Now the structure is gone. Life feels chaotic, unstable, unpredictable in ways that aren't exciting, just anxiety-provoking. The void of stability is teaching them that independence they thought they valued was actually just defense against acknowledging dependence that was real and healthy, and stabilizing their entire life. How the void is creating existential crisis about their life choices. The void is making them question their entire approach to relationships. Their patterns created this void. Their defended state pushed away the person whose absence is creating gut-wrenching pain. If their patterns create this much suffering when they cost them someone important, are the patterns worth keeping? Are they protecting them or destroying them? The questioning is fundamental. These patterns have organized their entire relational life. But the patterns led to this. The void is evidence the patterns don't work. Don't protect. Don't create the independence and safety they're supposed to create. Just create isolation and pain and loss. Some are using the questioning to pursue change. Most are using the questioning to experience anxiety without changing anything, because changing feels more dangerous than suffering from not changing. The void is also making them question what they actually want from life. They thought they wanted space, independence, freedom from obligation, but the void is teaching them that what they thought they wanted isn't making them happy. Space without you is just loneliness. Independence without you is just isolation. Freedom from obligation is just freedom from connection, from mattering to someone, from someone mattering to them. The void is revealing the gap between what they thought they wanted and what actually makes life meaningful. They're experiencing the thing they thought they wanted and discovering it's empty. Discovering that what they wanted was based on fear, not on actual values. The discovery is destabilizing everything. Some are questioning whether they're capable of relationship at all. If they can destroy relationship this important through their patterns, if they can't sustain connection with someone who tried as hard as you tried, maybe they're just fundamentally broken. Maybe they're not meant for partnership. Maybe they're destined for permanent aloneness. The questioning is creating resignation in some. Acceptance that this is just who they are, this is their fate, the void is permanent state they need to make peace with. The resignation is depression masquerading as acceptance, is giving up masquerading as self-knowledge. The void is teaching them they're broken, but instead of using that teaching to pursue fixing, they're using it to justify staying broken. Why the void will probably get worse before it gets better. Right now they're still in denial about the permanence. Part of them believes you'll come back, believes this is temporary, believes the void will fill because you'll fill it. But as time passes and you don't come back and the permanence becomes undeniable, the void will deepen. The hope that's currently providing slight relief from the void will die, and hope dying makes void worse. The void of permanent loss is deeper than void of temporary absence. They're moving toward permanent void. And permanent void is when the gut-wrenching becomes unbearable, when the teaching of the void becomes either catalyst for transformation or descent into permanent dysfunction. The void will also get worse as they fail repeatedly to fill it with other things. Each attempt that fails deepens the void. Each person who isn't you proves you're irreplaceable, which makes the void more obviously yours, which makes it hurt worse. Each activity that doesn't distract proves the void is too big to distract from. Each defensive strategy that doesn't work proves the void can't be defended against. The accumulation of failed attempts to escape the void is teaching them the void is inescapable. And inescapable pain is pain that increases because the hope of escape is what makes pain bearable. Without hope of escape, pain is just endless. Endless pain is worse than intense pain that might end. The void will worsen as anniversary dates pass. First birthday without you, first holiday without you, first anniversary of when you met. Each significant date will be spike in the void, will make the absence more acute, will create intense grief that's worse than the chronic grief they're experiencing daily. The spikes will be unbearable in ways even current void isn't unbearable, and each spike will leave residue, will make the baseline void slightly deeper, slightly heavier. The void is going to get worse through time markers that keep highlighting the absence, keep making it fresh, keep preventing any settling into new normal, because each anniversary prevents the abnormal from becoming normal. The final word on what their void means and what it doesn't mean. Their void is evidence you mattered profoundly, evidence the relationship was significant, evidence they're capable of deep attachment, even if incapable of sustaining deep attachment. The void is proof of their humanity, their capacity to love, their ability to need. The void is teaching them everything their defended state prevented them from learning while you were there. Teaching through pain what couldn't be taught through words. Teaching through absence what couldn't be learned through presence. The void is brutal teacher but effective teacher for those who are willing to learn from it. But their void doesn't create obligation for you. Doesn't mean you should return. Doesn't mean their pain is more important than your protection. Their void is consequence of their patterns. Their pain is result of their choices. Their suffering is outcome they created through being unable to meet you while you were there, trying to make relationship work with someone who couldn't work. The void is theirs to sit with, theirs to process, theirs to learn from or not learn from, theirs to use as catalyst for change or as evidence that relationships don't work. The void is teaching. What they do with the teaching is their choice. Your job isn't to fill their void. Your job is to protect yourself from patterns that would create void in you again. You experienced void while with them. Void of being with someone emotionally absent. Void of unmet needs. Void of one-sided effort. Void of loving someone incapable of receiving love. You filled that void by leaving, by choosing yourself, by protecting yourself from patterns that were creating emptiness in you. They're experiencing void now from your absence. You're experiencing fullness from their absence. Both are exactly what each earned. Their void is consequence. Your fullness is reward. And the boundary between their void and your fullness is boundary you maintain by staying gone, by protecting yourself, by letting their void be theirs, while your freedom remains yours. They have gut-wrenching void. The void is teaching them. The void is changing them. The void is consequence that might drive growth, or might just be suffering that proves patterns have costs. Either way, the void is theirs. The freedom is yours. And freedom that comes from protecting yourself from someone whose patterns created void while present is freedom worth protecting even when they're experiencing void from your absence. Their void doesn't change that you were right to leave. Doesn't change that patterns that created their current void were creating void in you while you were there. Doesn't change that your job is protecting yourself, not managing their pain about losing you. They feel your absence as gut-wrenching void. Good. Let them feel it. Let the void teach them. Let the consequence do its work. Your job is staying free.